Hello, everybody. This is Fernando for the latest aliens and UFOs encounters video. I haven't done one of these in a while, so I thought I would mix this one in here while I'm continuing to wrap up your cryptids and monsters suggestions. This one has to do, once again, from the reddit.com website, from a new subreddit, though, that's called Abductions. I like this one because it has longer stories associated with it. Not too long, but not too short, and so they give good details about their encounters. But this one comes from a user by the name of Throwaway Dream. That user ID actually hints to essentially what the story is going to be about. They titled theirs as A Dream from the Early 2000s plus a sighting. So let's go ahead and let's talk about this encounter here. I'll give my thoughts and opinions on it afterward. Let me know what you guys and gals think as well. So here's what they stated. So I have always wanted to post fully about an occurrence that I had back in the early 2000s. Take this from what you will. I guess that reading the post of the EBO stuff kind of drudged this up. I used to live in New Mexico at a higher elevation location-wise. I had been seeing multiple aircraft that day overhead. I was never one for chemtrails at all or anything that way. What had caught my eye was that it appears there were black lines in the sky laid out all over the place. Aircraft would then go over these black lines perfectly and leave contrails or chemtrails or whatever. I don't know. I just found it odd as this had been going on for hours at this point. I decided to grab some binoculars as the black lines are what was so different to me. I kept looking around for a while until I noticed this perfect pewter color sphere just hanging out above a black line that was then being flown over by an aircraft. I do not really care if anyone believes me or not, but I know what I saw. This pewter perfect spherical object just sat there. It didn't move a bit. I shifted the binoculars just a bit and lost it. I don't know where it went after that, as I could not find it. I have no idea how it disappeared, as I lost sight of it, which really pissed me off. And so I started digging around online for any information of what any of this could be. I ended up at a message board, so decided to post about what had just occurred. People had said that they had seen orbs like this before and etc. I knew and know I am not crazy. I know what I saw 100%. That same day, an hour after making that post, I was in bed on my laptop and suddenly had this strange, paralyzing type feeling. Best as I can describe it is I was shrinking in on myself, truly paralyzed feeling, but like I was being squeezed into paralysis. This feeling lasted for what I would estimate is about 2 to 3 minutes, which sucked. After this sensation stopped, it was like it never happened. I have never before or after experienced such a feeling like this. I have never mentioned this feeling to anyone at any time outside of me posting about it for the first time. 2 days later or so, I have a dream, a very vivid dream to put it lightly. I was in New Mexico at the time, but that was not my home state at all. In this dream, I am back in my home state and driving on the freeway in a hurry to get to the top of a mountain. I knew what mountain it was exactly and knew I needed to get up there for whatever reason. Intuition, I guess. While on the freeway, I could see off to the side in the valley, the city. There were buildings and homes on fire, a lot of smoke. I could also see alien craft zipping in and out of the sky. Usually when people described craft, they think of saucers, etc. These craft, however, were not any of those that I had seen before anywhere. These craft were massive black brick-shaped craft, not perfect brick-shaped, but close enough. I could see the texture of them easily from a distance. They were so large. They were shooting in and out of the area. One would shoot out in a blink and another would appear in a blink, and you could see a streak as they entered or exited. I wish I could find an image of such a brick-shaped aircraft that someone else might have seen or such, but I have yet to see a photo that looks like what I saw in this dream. And so I end up on this mountain I know I am to go to. It isn't only me though at the top, but about 40 or 50 other people. There were families that made up this group as well. I wasn't able to drive all the way up to the mountain and had to ditch my vehicle and then hike up the rest of the way as others did too. We were all congregated at the top of this mountain and could see the valley below us and the fire and smoke and massive craft still zipping in and out. It was quite terrifying from the top of the mountain, as you could just see about 360 degrees around from this location. Suddenly, a craft that we all know about, a saucer-shaped craft, begins to come out of the sky. It lands on top of the mountain 15 feet away from us in a clearing. A ramp opens up on this craft, and 3 taller gray aliens exit this craft down this ramp towards us. Instantly, some families are running on board this saucer ship, while other people or families are being denied of entering the craft. Some families are making decisions on best course. If one family of 3 is permitted to enter the craft, do you leave your family or go yourself? Do you take your kid and leave your wife? Pretty horrendous stuff. Others were able to just run on board, and they didn't hesitate. It finally got to crunch time for me. It was my turn. Do I leave or do I stay? I can see over my shoulder my hometown in the distance. I know that if I enter, I say bye to everyone I had ever known or loved. Do I stay? And who knows what happens, but whatever is happening isn't good, to say the least. And so I am stuck in this dilemma in my mind. Suddenly, one of the 3 tall grays approaches me, and we start having a conversation, although brief. It isn't a verbal conversation at all. It is, in fact, all mental. Which I feel he states is, we are not forcing you to come with us. You are permitted to come with us if you choose to. The choice is yours. I can still picture the ramp and the material it was made of even decades later. When I say this dream was vivid, I mean it. I was just unsure of what to do at all. I was frozen in this do I go or do I stay thought, and then I wake up from the dream. Not having made a decision bothers me to this day. I was just so unsure of what to do, and quite frankly, still would be all these years later. And so a week following all these occurrences, I am at work. I worked at a repair business. It was just a typical day like any other. I hear the bell ring as a customer enters the store. I see them on the security camera, and it's some guy dressed in all black. I blank you not. This isn't part of the dream. This is reality. At the time I see him on the screen, I am not at all thinking anything about any of the previous occurrences. In my mind, it was just another customer, which we get plenty of, but MIB thought wasn't even a thought in my head at all. Literally, the thought was the door chimes, check video, customer in black, heading up front to talk to them about service being needed, etc. And so I walk to the front of the store and I greet the individual. When I see his face, I just have this thought of what the F? This guy looks normal by all measures, but I just have this inherent feeling that something is off. His facial features and pasty white skin just really made me take a step back in my mind. He begins to start talking about services he needs rendered and so on. We are standing there talking verbally, but the verbal part is just diarrhea and means nothing. This man and myself are having a conversation outside of the verbal. He is basically asking me about what I saw that day and what I had posted, how I am feeling, etc. Then suddenly both conversations come to an abrupt end and he exits the store. I really was kind of in a what the F mindset for weeks after that. Eventually, as the decades went on, this is a cliff note to my now life. There is no negative or positive implication on my life at this time due to any of these occurrences. It was just something that had happened at a point in my life back in the early 2000s. It was surely the most surreal experience I've had that way in all of my life. I still wonder all the time what the right decision is. Do you get on the craft or do you stay? I would be curious as to how all of you would handle this dilemma depending on family, if they had to stay but you could go, etc. Go where? How do I know they don't zip you to 60,000 feet and then push you out and so on? So this is my story. It is the truth without question. I have no mental disorders. I have never been treated for any sort of mental illness. No breakdowns, no anything this way. No substance abuse issues, etc. You can choose to believe this or not, but it is in fact the truth. I really just felt like getting it out there, as I had mentioned. I just find it strange that I remember every bit of all of this like it was yesterday, but it has already been 20-something odd years since all of it transpired, but in my mind, it is just as fresh. Then that's it. That's everything that the user throwaway dream mentioned in their encounter, so let's talk about that here. As you can see, it's a really detailed story, right? I like that stuff. It pretty much creates a really good narrative in your mind as one is reading this information, and you're almost like right there, right next to them. So this person saw something in their binoculars out there in New Mexico. Apparently it was the result of some kind of weird black lines in the sky. He didn't call them contrails or chemtrails, but who knows? But in his case, he was seeing that this thing was right there along with those lines. First thing that came to my mind, it was one of those black satellites. I talked about that in one of my past videos a couple of years back. Those giant machines that look like they're squares and that they orbit the Earth, and then people see them every now and then. And so that's the first thing that came to my mind. I don't know if that's what was in this case here, but then he was talking about other people seeing orbs around that area as well, even though he didn't have that particular experience. But what he did have was what he called a strange paralyzing type feeling. It made it seem like this was the first time whatever he saw knew that he was watching them, and so they decided to pay a visit. And so that's where he got that paralyzing feeling, like it was something that was happening from his perspective, like nearby, but he couldn't quite see it, but his body and his mind were telling him that something was happening. And so that's why it was just a weird sensation. And then let's talk about that dream that he had. The idea that him and the rest of the group there, I guess the community, were up there at the very top of the mountain. They were almost corralled there, and all of a sudden an alien spacecraft lands. This is before they witness a bunch of other alien spacecraft, as he described it, zipping in and out of the sky, like it was blink in a moment, they're there, blink in a moment, and then they're not. And then people were just suddenly either going into the spacecraft or choosing which ones would go to the spacecraft and which ones would stay. And then, of course, in his case, his choice was coming up. The alien / Gray was telling him, hey, it's okay, it's your choice, we're not making you. And then just as he was about to do that decision, he woke up. Man, that sucks. That would absolutely haunt somebody. Like, I could see it haunting me if it was that type of dream and it was so real, and just as you're about to make the decision, you wake up. It makes you wonder what you would have done. In my case, I think I would have gone on that spacecraft. I would hope so, like that's what I would do, because my curiosity would get the better of me. But at least with regards to him, we have no idea. But let me know what you guys think. What would you all do as well? If you saw a spacecraft suddenly land in front of you, people are coming in, some are staying, other people are splitting the groups. What would you do? Would you do as well? Would you go in? Would you run the hell out of there? Let me know. All right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care. Bye.